Have you ever stood in the cookware aisle just completely overwhelmed? You see all these labels, non-toxic, PFOA-free, and it's a lot to take in. Well, today we are going to cut right through all that noise and figure out what these certifications actually mean for you and for your food. So that brings us to the big question, right? Is your cookware lying to you? Can you really trust those claims, or is it all just some very clever marketing? Let's dig in and find out. You know, the stakes are actually a lot higher than you might think. Just look at this. You start with a brand new, pristine pan, but after a while, it can start to break down. And that damage you see, it isn't just cosmetic. It's a sign that the material itself is degrading, and that could mean it's leaching into your meals. And that's what brings us to what I like to call the kitchen word soup. All those acronyms on the packaging, FDA, PFAS, LFGB, they're not just there for show. Believe it or not, they're actually the language of safety. Here's the bottom line, the real takeaway. These labels are all about one thing, telling you what might be leaching from the pan into the dinner you're about to eat. It's about chemistry, it's about safety, and ultimately, it's about your health. So let's start with a foundation of safety. We're going to build what you could call a ladder of assurance. And the very first rung, the absolute baseline you'll see in the US, is FDA approved. So what does that actually guarantee? Well, it means the FDA has looked at the materials and decided they're generally safe to touch your food during, normal everyday use. It's the legal bare minimum. It's essential for sure, but it's really just the starting point.
But what if you want more than just the bare minimum? Well, that's when we start climbing that ladder to some much higher standards of safety and purity.
And you'll see a huge jump in rigor when you look at the German LFGB standard. This is the law in Germany and a lot of Europe. And believe me, it is way tougher than the FDA's rules. It doesn't just have stricter limits on chemicals, it adds a really interesting sensory test. And this sensory test is just brilliant. It's there to make sure your cookware doesn't make your food taste or smell weird. I mean, it's right there in the quote. It ensures your expensive dinner doesn't end up tasting like your frying pan. It's a practical, common-sense level of quality that goes beyond just the toxicology.
But why do these stricter tests even matter? Well, the science shows that not all cooking is created equal. A report from the European Union found that acidic foods, think tomato sauce simmering for a while, can actually pull metals and chemicals out of cookware much faster. And boom, here's the proof. This chart makes it crystal clear. That first bar shows how much lead leaches into regular tomato sauce. Now, watch what happens when you make the sauce more acidic. Wow, the amount of lead that gets into the food just skyrockets. This is exactly why those tougher, more rigorous tests are so important. Okay, next up is NSF certified. This is a standard you'll often see on professional-grade stuff, like in restaurant kitchens. NSF is all about sanitation. They test for how smooth a surface is and its cleanability. Basically, making sure there are no tiny cracks for bacteria to hide in. That's on top of the safety testing for toxins. But here is the crucial detail, the thing you have to look for. NSF has different zones. A handle might be certified just for the splash zone. Only the food zone, the actual cooking surface, is guaranteed to have gone through that strict toxicological testing. The devil really is in the details with this one. All right, now we're reaching the very top of our ladder, Made Safe. This is a nonprofit certification, and it is probably one of the most comprehensive screenings out there. They don't just test the part that touches your food. Their scientists look at every single ingredient in the entire product. And when I say comprehensive, I mean it. They're screening for a massive list of bad stuff: carcinogens, neurotoxins, heavy metals, endocrine disruptors. The list goes on and on. This is all about total transparency, so you know there are no hidden toxins anywhere. And speaking of hidden toxins, we have to talk about one of the biggest issues in cookware today: forever chemicals. We're talking about a huge family of chemicals called PFAS, and they are super common in non-stick coatings. Just to help you grasp the sheer scale of this problem, think about this number: over 9,000. That's how many different chemicals are in the PFAS family. And they're called forever chemicals for a reason. They just don't break down, not in the environment and not in our bodies. And this brings us to a huge marketing trap. You'll see PFOA-free on a box and think, great, but PFOA is just one chemical out of more than 9,000. Often, companies just swap it out for a different, lesser-known PFAS chemical. To be truly safe, you need to look for PFAS-free and ideally have it verified by a third party like Green Screen Certified. That confirms the entire class of these chemicals has been avoided. Okay, I know, that was a ton of acronyms and information. So how do you take all this and actually shop with confidence? Well, let's break it all down into a really simple checklist. Here you go, your non-toxic cheat sheet. Good is your basic FDA approval. Better is stepping up to LFGB for that purity test, or NSF certified, as long as it's for the food zone. And the best? That's made safe for total transparency, and a verified PFAS-free label, like Green Screen Certified, to make sure you're avoiding all those forever chemicals. So there you have it. You've learned how to decode the labels. The next time you're in your kitchen, I want you to go take a look at your pots and pans and ask yourself, what's really in your kitchen?